Hello everyone. In this video, we will be solving the question letter combinations of a phone number. In the previous video, we've already discussed the approach, the backtracking algorithm that we'll be using to solve it. In this video, we'll be implementing it in JavaScript. So without further ado, let's get to it. Now I've written down some of the components for you that we need. First is the answer variable. This is the array in which we'll keep appending the strings that we generate via the backtracking process. Then we have the map. That is simply a hard coding of the key mappings that we've been given as an input, so to speak. And since this is not really that big of a mapping, we have simply written it down. And we are using JavaScript, so I've done that in the form of an object. I've used an object to do this. For other languages, you can use a dictionary or a hash map depending on the language that you're using, or some other data structure as per your needs and subjective analysis. Now, coming to our approach, how do we start our backtracking process? For that, I say that I want to write a function within our original function. So let's call that function backtrack. What will this function take as its arguments? It will take two arguments as far as I am concerned. I'll be giving it the index and the answer so far. What does index mean? Index simply means the current position of our answer with respect to the input. So if we have our input as 2, 3, then index at a time will represent the position. For example, if the value of this index is 0, it will be an integer. Then we are currently processing the character at the 0th index of the string. If the value of this index is 1, then we are processing the value at the first index of the string, which is 3 in this case. That will be index. So as we go down our path, this index will be appended by 1, and when we come back, it will go back to its original position, right? And the answer so far will simply store our answer that we've built up to this current point. For example, if we are at this map over here that we discussed in the previous video, first we build up our answer by taking the character A, then we add on the character D to it. So the answer so far at each stage would be A, then D will be added, it will become AD. If there is some other tree that we have to go down, then we'll pass AD as the answer so far and then build up on it as we move forward. So that is the purpose of these two variables. How do we actually backtrack now? So let's start with our base case. What should our base case be? I say that every single answer in this array will be or has to be equal to the number of digits that we have been given as an input. So if we've been given 2, 3 as an input, each answer will have 2 characters only, right? And that can be seen over here as well. We have 2 characters in each of the answers. We have 1 character over here as each of the answers because we only have 1 digit as our input, and that is common sense as well, right? So we check if the length of the answer that we have so far, if this length is equal to length of the input string, we've basically formed our answer. So we should push it to the final list of answers and then go back. We will backtrack, right? That's what we did in the previous video. We started off over here, we went down to D, we saw that there are no more cases to process, right? Because the length of our answer did become equal to the length of the input. So we went back to A and then went down the next path. We have to do the same over here. So we will return. The question is, how do we actually form our answer? So for that, I say that let's get the current digit first. Which of the digits in the input string are we processing? So current digit is the digit found at the index, right? And the mapping related to that digit on this keypad can be retrieved from this map that we have over here represented with an object. So the key map is simply the corresponding value of the current digit. Now, what we have to do is process each alphabet one by one. So first we process the tree that starts with A, then B, then C, then for each of these we have to process D, E, and F, right? So we simply loop over the map of the current digit. For that, I will introduce the for of loop to you in JavaScript. What for of loop does is that the variable that we use over here, it simply retrieves the value of our of the current value of our iteration. So let's say if our current key map is A, B, and C, this is our array, right? Then for each iteration, it will first get me A, then it will get me B, then it will get me C. So that is why I'm using the for of loop for simpler syntax. Of course, you can use the conventional for loop as well. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saving up on some lines here. So what we do now is we backtrack. Sorry, we make the recursive call to get the next combination. So what we do is we call our function again. This time we increase the index by 1, right? Because let's say we start over here at index 0. Then we have to check the next layer. We have to check the index 1, right? Because at index 1 we get our next digit. So we append the index by 1 and we have another argument, that is answer so far. So what do we put there? So our answer so far will simply be the answer that we have at the moment, and we append the current character to it, which is this ch variable. So that will be our backtracking recursive call. So when we have A over here, it will append D to it. So when we move forward, when we are over here checking, the answer will be AD, and then it will check for any other combinations that it may possibly need to. Now, the question is, how do we start calling this function? We've defined it, we've implemented it. How do we call it? We start with the index 0, right? And then the answer so far will be an empty string. And of course, at the end of it, we return our answer because then we need to return it, right, to get our submission correctly. Now, the question is this the right way to do it? Because I feel like you're missing something here. So let's see the examples. We've been given an empty string as an example over here. This case would fail because it will simply return this empty string as a part of this array. So let's handle this separately and then submit it. So we'll simply check if the length of our digits is 0, which means we don't really have an input. We will simply return an empty array, which is the need over here. Now let's try to run this. Okay, it's been accepted. Let's try to submit this. Alright, it's been accepted and it's a pretty fast solution. And that's how you solve the question, letter combinations of a phone number. Thank you so much for watching and follow for more.